All of a sudden, here we go to Hong Kong. We've had protests all across the world, and now we've got what is being called the Umbrella Revolution in Hong Kong. I'll tell you what that is in a second and why they're calling it that. But first, let me give you a sense of scope. About 80,000 protesters overall, according to NBC News. And they say that there's been 41 injured already, including 12 police officers. And the reason they're calling it the Umbrella Revolution is because the police are firing with tear gas, pepper spray, etc. So, according to the Associated Press, protesters donned rain capes, surgical masks, and goggles, wrapped their heads and glasses in plastic, and used umbrellas to shield themselves from the searing clouds of tear gas unleashed by police on Sunday. So, as you can see right there, that's why they're using it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And it is clever. I haven't seen it anywhere else. And it seems to be that the police are the ones overreacting here. Now, and I'll tell you why. That's not just my proclivity towards freedom and people protesting in favor of freedom. And there, by the way, they're doing hands up, don't shoot, an ode to Ferguson. So that's interesting as well. The reason is Hong Kong has a rich history of protests. In fact, every year there's a protest of Tiananmen Square. That's when the Chinese killed thousands who were trying to seek freedom and democracy back in 1989 in the mainland. And it's not just Tiananmen Square protests. There's protests all the time in Hong Kong. In this case, they saw protests led by a group called Occupy Central. Central is the area where they're protesting there in Hong Kong. And the cops seem to have almost immediately fired tear gas. Interesting. So what's this all about? Let's go here to Vox for an explanation. In July, they explained, the Chinese government issued a white paper stating that it has comprehensive jurisdiction over Hong Kong and that the high degree of autonomy of Hong Kong is not an inherent power, but one that comes solely from the authorization by the central leadership. So let me decipher that for you. Back in 1997, Britain handed over Hong Kong to China. And China said, hey, don't worry, we're going to have this policy where you're going to get the country back into democracy. In fact, they promised universal suffrage. And they said that in 2017, there would be free and fair elections. The chief executive, Leung Choi-ling, is basically picked by the Chinese government at this point. But they said, that's okay, the elections are coming up. That note in July basically said, wait, did we say universal suffrage? Did we say that you would get to vote in a democracy? Well, we meant kind of. In August, they clarified. Here, the Vox explains again. And then in August, Beijing announced its plan for Hong Kong's 2017 elections. While citizens would be allowed to vote for the chief executive, candidates for the election would have to be approved by a special committee, just like the pro-Beijing committee that currently appoints the chief executive. So, there you have it. Basically what they're saying is, yeah, you get the vote, but we tell you who you can vote among. That sounds like a joke, right? I mean, that's what the mullahs in Iran do. If we don't like you, we eliminate you from the election, and here's your new set of choices, all pre-approved by the mullahs. Now, the mullahs like some more than other, and Ayatollah has his favorite, but we'll let you choose among the ones we pick. Now, a lot of governments do this. Unfortunately, the U.S. government is very similar. You might say, no, wait a minute, that's not true. We have elections here, and we get to decide whoever we like. Really? How do those people wind up on your ballot? They won what Larry Lessig calls the money primary first. The incredibly rich in our country first donated to specific candidates. Those are the candidates that wound up on your ballot. And you are allowed to choose among the people who already got millions of dollars in donations. You see, the rich in our country already do what the Chinese government wants to do with Hong Kong. They select the people you're allowed to vote on. And those are the people who run all the commercials, who run all the ads, etc., with the money that they got. Do you know that over half of Congress is already millionaires? The reason they're already millionaires is because the elites are the ones choosing them. Sometimes they choose themselves. They say, well, you know what? I do declare I'll run for office. I'm allowed, I'm a millionaire. Do you know that our billionaires have already given $113 million to these midterm elections? Just our billionaires, let alone all the other money. They already picked your candidates for you. So now China would like to do the same in Hong Kong, but be a little bit more brazen about it, and that's why these protests have come about. Now, why did they crack down so hard, so fast? Which, by the way, is counterproductive because more people have come into the streets now. Well, we go to Vox again for an interesting explanation. If the public tacitly accepts Beijing's terms for the 2017 election, it will likely be taken as a green light for more limit on Hong Kong's democracy and autonomy, however subtle those limits end up being. But if Hong Kong residents join the protesters en masse, they will be rejecting not just the 2017 election terms, but the basic terms of Hong Kong's relationship with the central Chinese government. So there are two layers here. One, it's about the election, but it's about how Hong Kong is going to be treated by China in the first place. If they say, hey, you really don't have democracy here, we're going to pick the guys you're going to get the vote on, then we can take away more freedoms from you, and you've already bowed your head. Once you bowed your head the first time, it's already over. But the second layer of it, Vox does not explain, or it does in other parts, and many other articles also say the same thing, because it's obvious and it's true. The crackdown happened because China is trying to send a message, not just to Hong Kong, but to the mainland. Oh, you want to go ahead and have protests? Okay, you're not going to get your way. So there's just no way the Chinese government's going to bend here, because it would send a message to everybody that if you do big protests and you get together and you exercise the power of the people, that China will listen to you. The Chinese government has no intention of doing that. So this is a significant standoff. In Hong Kong, people are a little bit split. In the beginning, it was just normal protesters, like I said. Once the cops overreacted, it backfired and more protesters came in. A lot of younger protesters in the beginning, some now, some non-young people have protested and are part of it because there's a rich tradition in Hong Kong of cherishing some of those liberties they've had for a long time. And they don't want those taken away. On the other hand, there are a lot of conservatives in Hong Kong as well, and they don't want instability, and they want people to go to work, and some of the streets are clogged now. And so that'll be the tension that arises as these protests go forward. But I would be dramatically surprised if the Chinese government bent at all here. So part of the reason we have this mess in the first place is they gave the green light to attack the protesters so that it would be very clear to not just Hong Kong, but to the whole world, they have no interest in democracy.